What it is, people, my name is Batman, and Destiny has undoubtedly crafted one of the greatest PvE experiences the FPS genre has ever seen, and yet for many of us, it's still not sufficient, because it is not enough that I succeed. Others must fail. And so it is in the chaos of the Crucible that we strive for true glory. Now, the Crucible is the most consistent and simple way to work towards your character development and economic goals. It will provide you a steady stream of XP, motes of light, various materials, equipment, glimmer, and hot chicks, all at a low and casual time commitment cost, because hot chicks like a man who can kill opponents capable of critical thought themselves. And of course, it's the endgame content that keeps on giving. Player-controlled enemies will always retain the potential to offer an original and novel gameplay experience, whereas after a certain number of playthroughs against the PvE, you may find it no longer provides the same level of satisfaction. But of course, if you are to achieve that glory which you seek, you must first overcome Destiny's unique skill gap. And unless you've been playing some hardcore indie games on the PC lately, this is the widest PvP skill gap you will have had to conquer in a very long time. Destiny is a game that cultivates a direct ratio between your knowledge, the subsequent skill you possess, and the success you attain in the Crucible. This is not true in many other games. For instance, the reason the time to kill is so low in Advanced Warfare is that they want to make sure players with very bad aim can still consistently get kills on a bunch of slippery thrusting targets, right? And when the TTK is that low, it doesn't really matter how good your aim is or how many headshots you land. It doesn't make a difference. It's a wash. But Bungie will not oblige you in this way. They will not hold your hand. In Destiny, your aim, and specifically your ability to land headshots, is going to make or break you. You should be going for the headshot in essentially every single gunfight you get into. And I wouldn't give that advice in any other game, because the time to kill in Destiny is high enough to allow for quite a few headshots, and there are two significant benefits to landing these headshots consistently. The first being that you'll kill your enemies faster, which allows for more time to address a potential second threat or to simply recover, and secondly, headshots allow you to win gunfights that you would otherwise lose because you started said gunfight at a disadvantage. For instance, if they get the first shots off on you, or if you're wounded when the gunfight starts, headshots can still turn that fight around in your favor. Now, the trick to getting those headshots varies depending on the range. The farther away they are, the more you want to rely on the recoil to get the headshot. If they are on the outer rim of your radar, or maybe not even on your radar, but you still have a line of sight, don't aim directly for their head. Instead, aim at their neck and or upper torso, and what will happen is when the weapon recoils slightly, it will recoil into their head and get the headshot. And it's better to go about it this way, because if you aim directly at the head at those long distances, or even, you know, the sort of medium/long distances, what will happen is you will get some headshots, but every time it recoils, you'll shoot the air, you'll miss the damage advantage of any headshot. So you aim for the neck or upper torso, every bullet hits the target, and then some of those bullets are headshots. That's the best method for consistent max damage rates. However, the closer an enemy gets, the closer you can aim towards their head and the more headshots you can get. So if you're aiming at the upper chest at long range and recoiling into their head, as they get closer, you can move up to the neck and still recoil into the head. And once they reach a certain point, you know, if they're at a range where a shotgun would do damage, not necessarily the most effective shotgun range, but where the shotty's bullets would at least make contact, that's when you can generally start aiming for just the face, and every shot will still be a headshot. And I do believe that the hitbox of the head is actually a little bit bigger than the head. You know, like, it seems like if you graze their ear, or maybe graze their chin, or like give them a haircut, all those things still count as a headshot. So, you know, there is a little room for error. But obviously a lot of this depends on the amount and type of recoil your weapon has. I would say this method applies to the vast majority of auto rifles, pulse rifles, and scout rifles, because these weapons generally have low, manageable, and most importantly, predictable recoil. But the higher the rate of fire gets, the lower on the body you want to aim to avoid having it recoil past their heads, because again, if you miss shots, that's a huge disadvantage, and it's going to completely undo any advantage that the headshot did. You don't want to miss shots. But once that rate of fire reaches a certain point, and there are some weapons like this, particularly the you know, the heavy machine guns, you don't want to employ this method at all. You don't want to go for the headshot at all. Just stick to aiming for the guts if it's that high rate of fire, you probably don't need the headshots anyways. Now, at the very, very close, like point blank ranges where your enemy's threat indicator is showing up in that very middle circle of your radar, you really shouldn't ADS at all. Hip fire instead, as this allows you to strafe and use other forms of mobility more effectively than if you were aimed down sights. And a lot of time when you get into these very close quarters encounters, it can turn into a bit of a dance, right? You're moving around each other, sprinting around each other, it's kind of chaotic. Maybe the guy, you know, he tries to jump and glide and throw you off and then shoot you from the air, and you can shut that tactic down with hip fire because you can just spray and pray all day. You can move your reticle around faster, you can move your body around faster. It's very important that you just stick to the hip fire at that point. And at that range, if you hip fire and you kind of move your crosshairs up a little bit, you can get plenty of headshots just hip firing, and then drop the melee, and that'll wipe his ass out. The melee in Destiny is incredibly powerful. It has a much longer range than I think most people realize. For one, because the effective range is actually a bit farther than where the melee animation itself stops. I think that throws a lot of people off. And also because in most other games you may have played, you basically have to be point blank for the melee to hit. Whereas in Destiny, if you're in effective shotgun range, I mean, not just where the bullets would hit like we were talking about before, but where 2 blasts would get the kill, or 1 blast, you are also in melee range. So basically, think of your melee as a really powerful shotgun, because it packs a punch. If your enemy is taking even slight damage, the melee generally will finish them off. Now, if they're at full health, it'll require 2 melees, but the first melee will drop their health low enough to the point where, you know, a few bullets from the hip will finish the job. Or what's best is to get a few shots off from the hip right before you melee, but always use that melee. I get into a lot of close quarters fights where the guy could have beat me if he had just remembered to melee, but he was trying to charge his fusion rifle or some dumb shit instead. Now, while we're on the topic of gunfighting, I want to go over heavy weapons real quick. You should go after that heavy ammo every time it drops. It drops in the same 2 places every time, one on each side of the map. The guy gives you a warning, and what the guy should really say instead of heavy ammo available is free kills available, because that's what it is, free kills. It seems like very few people ever pursue the heavy ammo. I see people walk right by it all the time, and this confounds me greatly because I thought everybody liked free kills. And that's what heavy ammo is. It's free kills. That's how you have to think of it. And if you use it intelligently, it can be a lot of free kills. And on that note, I highly recommend that you use the heavy machine gun instead of the rocket launcher, because the rocket launcher, I mean, obviously it packs a punch, but usually you're only going to get at most 2 kills out of it. You know, if you're lucky, maybe you get a double, but usually 2 kills is what you're limited to with your rocket launcher heavy ammo. And on top of that, there's a good chance you might miss one of those rockets, or, you know, maybe you hit near the target for some splash damage, but not enough splash damage to get the kill. You know, maybe he jump glided at the last second. It happens. Whereas with the heavy machine gun, you'll have enough ammo for a lot of kills. Like, you know, if you watch the clips, there should be a clip in here where I get like 5 or 6 kills with that LMG, or not, it's an HMG now, and that's just from 1 heavy ammo pickup. It'll win the gunfight even if you're, you know, at half health and you fight a guy at full health. You can take that guy down. And on top of all of that, what's really great about it is that you don't have to worry about missing, because again, with the rocket, if you miss, well, you've wasted an entire rocket, you missed out. But you can miss plenty of shots with a heavy machine gun and still have enough ammo for more kills than the 2 you would typically get with the rocket launcher. So I highly recommend the heavy machine gun. Now, keep in mind, you can loot the heavy ammo off of the dead body of an opponent, so what you can do is use the heavy ammo as bait. If an opponent is coming looking for it, he sees you on radar, half the time he'll just come charging in trying to get to it before you do, but you can just be sitting there laying in wait and then shit on him, and then you can pick up the heavy ammo off his dead body. Now, the second biggest factor outside of gunfighting that's gonna determine your success in the Crucible, this factor being probably more consequential than gunfighting itself, is the radar, the interpretation of its data and the application of a strategy based on said data. The vast majority of the time, the enemies you fight will be aware of your presence long before your physical character shows up on their screen, and vice versa. This means the engagement is often won even before it starts, and this is a game mechanic that is specific only to Destiny and, again, what I consider its precursor, Halo. When both sides are granted a few seconds in advance to prepare a strategy, It's that preparation itself that will play the biggest role in deciding who wins like a boss and who dies like a bitch. The most important and basic part of winning radar chess is to keep in your mind at all times that if you see them on your radar, they see you on their radar. They're planning to kill you the same as you're planning to kill them. You need to be able to put yourself in their shoes, and if you move towards that red indicator without expecting some sort of counterattack, you're gonna get dunked on. For instance, if that red indicator gets closer rapidly, they probably want to charge you with a shot of your fusion rifle. That would be an excellent time to drop a grenade in the pathway. You suspect they'll come, let them walk through it, and then you blast them. Or if you don't have a grenade, what you can do is pre-fire. You see that red indicator coming closer, it's changed direction slightly to line up with the door in front of you or the window above you, and you're pretty sure he's going to pop out and make a move. Start shooting right where you think he's going to show up. This is called the pre-fire. It's, useful in basically any FPS game. But it wins gunfights. They will literally walk right into your bullets. This is going to throw them off. It's going to confuse them. It's going to give them some flinch. If they try to ADS while they're getting shot, it's going to give them some flinch. And even if you land 2 or 3 extra shots, that could be what wins the gunfight. And these are both textbook examples of winning the fight before it begins. It's those brief seconds when you have your enemy on radar and you know an engagement is imminent. What kind of clever little plan can you devise rapidly in that time frame that will win the fight? Or if you feel that you're at a disadvantage, maybe your health is low, maybe you just don't like your current position, maybe the best idea is to run. There's a good chance they'll chase you, and if that happens, you have a measure of control over the engagement. Now, I also wanted to clarify 2 basic things that I think a lot of people are confused about in regards to the radar. First of all, if the red indicator on your radar is a darker and faded red, that means the enemy is either above or below your position. If it's filled in bright red, they are at your altitude. And this is where basic radar data interpretation begins. And it's a perfect example of the mental process you want to be using for all radar scenarios, all your radar chess games. If you see a red faded indicator to your right, use your deductive reasoning to determine what kind of threat this enemy poses. Because just because they're above or below you doesn't mean they can't immediately get a line of sight on you, right? There could be a window or a staircase or something else. So immediately begin asking questions. Is there a level above your current position? Is there one below? If you're on ground level, obviously they're above you. Or perhaps you know there's nothing above you and you determine this bad guy's below you. Now, ask yourself, do they have a staircase nearby? Is there some sort of window they could jump glide through? It just comes down to asking questions and then answering them yourself, and the player who can complete that mental process more rapidly will be the one who comes out on top. And this is the basic theme of radar use in general. Now, one other thing that it seems a lot of people are confused about is crouching. It seems like half of all Guardians don't realize crouching can take you off the radar, and the other half are under the impression that it takes you off the radar permanently, when the truth is somewhere in between. When you crouch, you will be taken off the radar most of the time, but you will show up on enemies' radars briefly every 5 seconds. So what this means is that it is a good way to lie low if you just want a gunfight but your health is low. Crouching to wait for it to recharge is a fine use of it. Crouching is great if you're reloading a weapon, particularly shotguns and heavy machine guns or rocket launchers. Now, where it's not going to be as useful as it was in, say, Halo, is crouching around a doorway waiting for some unsuspecting guy to walk through so you can get a free kill. Or if you try to pull that same tactic as you're running away from someone who maybe got the upper hand in a fight, and you know you can't outrun them because you're at low health, so you try to, run away and crouch and throw them off your scent. That's not going to work the way you want it to. And I know if you've played Halo, that's a tactic that worked very well. It was the best way to escape shitty scenarios, but it won't work here. Now, the aforementioned tactics will work sometimes, especially this early on in the game, because a lot of people are still confused about how crouching works. Don't be the guy that gets dunked on by those strategies that shouldn't work. If you see a red indicator either right on top of you, in the center of the radar, or at medium distance in the middle of the radar, and that red indicator immediately disappears, that person has either died or is crouching. Now, if he had died and you have headphones on, you probably would have heard it. If you're not sure, just be patient, wait a couple seconds to see if the indicator pops back up. If it does, you know he's crouching. And keep in mind, just because you know where he is doesn't mean you should go around that corner and try and pop him. He's probably waiting there with a shotty or a fusion rifle, and just because you know where he is doesn't mean his little tactic isn't going to work if you walk around the corner. If you have a grenade, drop the grenade. If you can somehow get a line of sight on that corner from a distance, do that. Just because you know he's there isn't going to win that fight. Now, the radar in general creates a very convergent flow of combat in Destiny. I would use the term magnetic. Like every player is their own magnet, and they are pulled towards the enemy, and the enemy is pulled towards them. This is because of the radar. Generally, when a player sees the red indicator on their radar, they will follow it. And what this means is that all the players on the map are constantly converging on one another. Now, the best way to make this mechanic work in your favor is to try and keep an equal ratio of teammates and enemies on your radar. This doesn't necessarily mean you want to keep your teammates all, right on top of you, even in the same room necessarily, but you want to have them on your radar within a range to where you could run to them. For instance, one of the best reasons to keep teammates close is if you're being chased by someone, right? So say, you got a kill, but the guy before you killed him did some damage to you, now you're wounded, now other people are coming towards you, you see them on radar. If you're by yourself, you're in trouble. But if you have teammates nearby, just run in their direction. And this is the best way to escape an enemy. For one, because once they start seeing multiple threat indicators where previously there was only one, they are going to potentially get thrown off your scent, especially if you and one of those teammates overlaps directions. And they might get scared away because they don't want to necessarily, get flanked while they're trying to hunt you down. Most smart Destiny players know that it is very difficult to win a 1v2 fight. And on top of that, as soon as the enemy who is chasing you shows up on your teammate's radar, generally they're going to begin converging towards that enemy without you even having to ask for help. And because the time to kill is so high in this game, there is always ample opportunity to make an escape. If you're wounded and you know someone's coming for you, don't try and fight. It's not COD or Battlefield where you can drop a triple while you're injured. Jump and glide and sprint around corners and keep on sprinting until you reach the safety of your teammates. And something else you can do is look at the ground a little bit as you're running, and this will lower your character's head and make it harder for the enemy to get headshots. And jumps and gliding obviously throw people way off this too, but I already mentioned that. And if you have an area of effect grenade, you can drop that behind you, and that'll sort of cut off the enemy's pursuit. Or if they're dumb enough to run through it, you can turn around and blast them. It's easy to escape death so long as you are smart enough to recognize when it's time to get the fuck out of dodge. And remember, if you're on the enemy's radar, assume they are coming for you, because the vast majority of the time they probably are. Now on the opposite side of that, if you are the one who's hunting, be careful not to fall in the trap I was just talking about. You don't want to converge into the combat faster than your teammates, right? You want to try and keep an equal ratio of teammates and enemies on your radar. Sometimes the person you are chasing will get away, and as painful as it is, it's better to let them go than to chase them into sort of their team's territory at the time. Because if you chase them and they run back towards their teammates, what's going to happen is as soon as all those teammates see your little red indicator, you're going to have, multiple guys converging on just you. And that's why you kind of want to keep a balance so that you don't get singled out by the enemy. Now, if for some reason you do find yourself in a shitty scenario where there are multiple threat indicators in every direction and they're moving all around you and hurting your brain and you can't keep track of what's going on and who's going where, but all you know for sure is that they are aware of your presence and are coming to bone you, you have to stay calm. Focus only on the immediate threats, the bright red indicators in the very middle or medium distance range on your radar that are the closest. Deal with these first and try to hold out as long as you can, because backup will arrive. The flow of combat is magnetic, your teammates are on the way, it's inevitable. That is of course assuming it's a team-based game mode. If it's Rumble Pit, then don't worry about it. Those red indicators are dealing with one another and you're that much safer because of it. Now I'm not saying this will allow you to survive that scenario every time, but it's better than shitting your pants and giving up, which is what I did the first dozen times I got stuck in that situation. And just remember, in general, even if it's just a 1v2, if you see multiple threat indicators and you're all by yourself, assuming you don't have a super or a heavy weapon ready, you should fall back a little bit, because the number of combatants on one side of an engagement matters a lot more in this game than in your typical shooter like Battlefield or COD. In Battlefield or COD, one person can walk into a room of 3 unsuspecting bad guys and mow them all down, even if you're wounded. That kind of shit is not going to fly in Destiny. For one, because your enemies will never be unsuspecting. Again, if you come up on 3 guys, they've already seen you on the radar. They are already aware of your presence in advance and are prepared to fight you. And also, because the TTK is so high, you can't pull triple kills out of your ass. Maybe you'll kill 1 guy, but generally you're not going to beat even 2 guys at a time in a typical fair gunfight that doesn't involve the use of supers or a serious amount of luck and or stupidity on your opponent's part. So like I said, the combat will have a magnetic flow. Every player in both teams is attracted in the direction of the enemy. What you want to do is flow with your team. You've got to work with your team. Doesn't mean you even have to communicate with them. There are little blue dots on your radar. Flow with them. Go with the flow, baby. If you go off on your own lone wolfing it, sooner or later you're going to attract the attention of multiple enemies at once, they will see you via the radar, and they will chase you. And the farther away from your teammates you are, the more likely they will catch you and kill you, and skin you alive and wear your skin to a costume party. And the other thing that's great about keeping your teammates around is you can get some sort of free kills, right? So say your teammate gets into a fight with an enemy, does some damage to him, but loses, that enemy's badly wounded, well, you can take that kill. Or they don't even have to kill your teammate, you could just steal your teammate's kill, and guess what? He can't bitch at you because there's no in-game chat system for him to use. And with this knowledge, may you break many faces and slay many dastardly enemies. For if you can compete with sentient intelligence, surely you can outmatch that which is artificial. Now, if you have any other meaningful advice, tips, tricks, and/or tactics that you think I should have included, be sure to provide said knowledge in the comments section, and that way motherfuckers can simply scroll down, and this can be the ultimate comprehensive PvP guide, ultimate Megatron powerhouse video ever possible. And please, if you found it at all helpful, be sure to rate the video. I consider it a personal favor. And be sure to hit me up on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch for a magical experience that will make you feel fuzzy in your funny place. Links in the description. This is Batman, signing out.